Hey guys, Dennis752 here. Today I'm bringing you another build that I've made. I posted the build guide on the forums, but this video is going to be the explanation of the whole build. So here we are with the gear section of the build. So first off, I'm gonna go with all the items and all the links, and then after that I'm gonna talk about the passive tree a little bit and the Ascendancy that I took and all that. So let's get started. Okay, so first off, I went for a regular yellow Void Scepter. A Scepter because it gives you elemental damage. It's Righteous Fire actually doesn't get damage from spell damage, so you want to get a Scepter which gives you elemental damage. So that's the primary reason for going for a Scepter. Not only that, but it also works well with your Leap Slam, Shield Charge, and faster attacks basically, so that you can go pretty fast with your Shield Charge, and of course Leap Slam or Gaps. So instead of Leap Slam, you could actually use Consecrated Path, for example, which is going to give you consecrated ground when you land. But this is kind of clunky because you keep moving with this build, right? You're really fast because Juggernaut is really fast. I'm going to show you later why. But yeah, you could go with Consecrated Path. The only problem with that is that if there's a gap and there is no monster behind it, you cannot go across the gap. So that's why I'm using Leap Slam, because you can simply jump over, right? And the Scepter by itself is just a lot of damage over time and elemental damage. So you see fire damage over time, multi, elemental damage, fire damage, and then some more damage over time. That would be something that you're going to be looking for. If possible, this could also have +1 to fire skill gems, spell skill gems, but that's really hard to come by, and it's going to be something like a chase item. Onto the shield. The shield I'm using Cephal's Frame. The reason why I'm using Cephal's Frame is because it gives 4% to all maximum resistances, and honestly this build is really kept on fire, so you don't really need that, what do you call it, Rise of the Phoenix, right? It will be only 1% more here, and it gives some life, but I managed to get a good Scourge and good Corruption, so my Cephal's Frame is actually giving me life as well. The reason why I went for all elemental maximum resistances is because it also stacks with the Breast Dome, which gives +5 to all maximum, so this is 4 to all maximum. This can also, I think, have a corruption of +1, or maybe the chest piece, so you could even get that. And additionally, on the tree, we're getting +2 to all elemental resistances, and then +1, +1, +1, so this is +1 as well. So this is in total +3, this is +4, and this is +5. And that's why we end up with this insane amount of resistances on the build. In the shield, I use Anomalous Infernal Cry, just to, like, if you have a really tough pack of monsters that you can't really kill that fast, you go inside of them, you use the Infernal Cry, and they just pop, you know, it's an explosion. Also, it applies the, what do you call it, enemies are covered in ash, which is great for bossing, for example. Vitality, this is an aura that we're using. It's not linked to anything, so that you don't have to worry. And Molten Shell, which is just leaving my left click, so when I'm moving, I'm getting a huge shield occasionally. You're gonna be like moving a lot, so just leaving it on left click is fine. You could use Val Molten Shell as well. The reason I wasn't using it is because I'm using Val Righteous Fire, but honestly you could use both of them, they're both really fine. Or instead maybe you could use Val Molten Shell, but use 21 20 Righteous Fire. Then your Righteous Fire by default is going to be stronger, right? So we have the Molten Shell here, Vitality here, and Anomalous Infernal Cry. The reason why it's anomalous is because you want to be casting it as fast as possible, right? So you don't want to be standing around too long. The cast time is kind of long if it's not anomalous, and that's why I prefer this. Then you cast it like really quickly, and you can keep going. The chest piece, while I touched on it, so we're using it mostly for the maximum elemental resistances. You see I got pretty good Scourges and Corruptions. So this Scourge is actually excellent because the spell hits are going to hinder you, reducing your movement speed for 4 seconds. But since we're a Juggernaut, we're basically unstoppable, right? So action speed cannot be modified below base value, and you actually get some additional movement speed, so this does nothing to us, basically. Okay, well, next to nothing. It gets some extra fire resistance and some life as well. The problem with this chest is it has a lot of armor, so you're going to be mitigating a lot of physical damage, you're going to be mitigating a lot of elemental damage, and you're actually taking no extra damage from critical strikes. So it's bonkers how strong this chest piece is, but it doesn't have life. So that's why you're looking for something like this Corruption. So this can be quite expensive. but if you can get it, all the power to you, of course. So here I have the Searing Bond. Instead of the Searing Bond setup, so this is a 6-link Searing Bond setup, so this is this little totem. It deals quite a bit of damage. So if you check the damage of my Righteous Fire, is something 265, but my Searing Bond is even higher, 350k DPS. So it's a lot of DPS on a boss. What I usually do, I place it behind the Cyrus, and then I cast Flame Wall as well, and then inside this area, the boss is going to be taking the RF damage, it's going to be taking the Searing Bond damage, and the, Flame Wall damage. The Flame Wall I placed inside my gloves. I have the Anomalous Flame Wall for extra damage. You could swap this out inside the chest piece so that the Flame Wall is 6 length, but Searing Bond actually deals more damage than the Flame Wall. The only downside is it's a little bit more clunky, but it's really good damage. Like, you can check the numbers, right? So even if I made this a 6 link, it would still be something like below 200k, right? But Searing Bond is just insane damage wise. So that's why I'm keeping it on a 6 link. The regular elemental focus, burning damage. By the way, awakened burning damage is something like 13 chaos, so don't be afraid to buy it. Control destruction, life tap, and swift affliction. So most of these are damage. Life tap support is so it costs life, right? So you see, it wastes my life, but it regenerates really quickly. This way we don't have to worry about it spending mana. Not only that, we get the life tap, and when you get life tap, your Searing Bond actually deals even more damage. So you want to be recasting it occasionally, just so you keep that life tap active, right? So when it removes, yeah, you'll do some damage. And I think it also applies to the other ones, or maybe it doesn't. I don't think it does. Yeah, only to supported skill gems. So basically, if you cast it, your totem is going to be stronger. So keep recasting it occasionally. You're probably going to have to, because they can die, of course. And for the Flame Wall, I just have a lot of damage. Again, Awakened Fire Penetration, super cheap, by the way. Super cheap, don't have to worry. Righteous Fire setup is in the helmet. I rolled this myself, so I got Concentrated Effect, which is a 5-link basically, but I was spamming the Essences of Horror, if I'm not mistaken. Essences of Horror give you this Socket and Gems deal 30% more elemental damage, which is basically a 5-link as soon as you place this on the helmet. And then you want to roll the Elder Helmet because it can have Concentrated Effect, or it can have Burning Damage, or it can have both. So this can be another chase item that you can look after. So if I rolled Concentrated Effect, Burning Damage, and the Essence thing, it would basically be a 7-link Righteous Fire, right? So this would be like the end game goal. But if you get Concentrated Effect or Burning Damage, you're basically done with the helmet. I managed to get some block spell damage as well, and I could craft life on top of the helmet, which is amazing. I ran a couple of labs. I got this useful enchant. Determination has increased mana reservation efficiency. You could ask people on the the Trove discard to get you the enchant that you need. Alternatively, you could buy a base with a useful enchant before you go craft it. Then it's going to be quite a bit cheaper. But yeah, my Righteous Fire is inside. I'm using Val Righteous Fire just for that extra melty bonus of the Val Righteous Fire. If I want some burst damage, I use that. Awaken Burning Damage, again, super cheap. Why not? It's stronger than a 2020 gem, even on level 1. So, Awakened Elemental Focus, I think I paid 1 Exalted Orb for this. And increased area of effect, I think also 1 Exalted for this one. So 1x, 1x, 13 Chaos. It's not that expensive if you want the Awakened Gems. But you don't need to go for the Awakened ones. Instead of area of effect, you could actually go for another damage gem, like Swift Affliction or something like that. That will be more damage. But I like the AoE since I rolled the Concentrated Effect. You see that the area of effect is not that large. If I roll Burning Damage, then it would be even larger, right? Then I wouldn't need to use Burning Damage, but I would use something like Swift Affliction. And that would be much better. So it's a little bit better to roll Burning Damage instead of Concentrated Effect. So that's the links for the Flame Wall, for the Searing Bond, and the Righteous Fire. In the boots, I placed all of my auras. I'm using Enlighten 3 because I'm leveling this, Vitality as high as possible. So you don't need to level this Vitality much. So you can even have an Enlighten 2, or not even have Enlighten, but leave the Vitality at level 1. Also, this one helps determination, reduced mana reservation efficiency, because I'm using determination. That helps quite a bit as well. But yeah, I'm trying to min-max this. It's a really good build, so I'm gonna be playing it. Summon a Skitterbots. Okay, so this one is important because we're using only the shock effect actually of the Skitterbots. We're replacing the chill effect with a curse instead by using Profane Proxy. So you place your elemental weakness inside, and then instead of the chill effect on the Skitterbots, it's going to apply the elemental weakness aura. So you see this little bot, it has the special aura effect of the elemental weakness. So basically my bots are applying a shocking aura and the elemental weakness. Enlighten, of course, to reduce all the costs of the, and Purity of Elements. I love the immunity to all ailments. So not only are you super tanky, you have a lot of chaos resistance because you have a lot of chaos resistance on your gear. You also get it by getting endurance charges because of the Ascendancy. But you also get Ignite, Chill, Freeze, and Shock Avoidance because of the elemental weakness. Purity of Elements. And another thing I managed to snatch for only 55 chaos is the Watcher's Eye. So this Watcher's Eye was super cheap, like 55 chaos. I'm telling you, I don't know why I snatched it for so low, but it gives me an effect for vitality. So this one is the important one. This is what you want to look after on your Watcher's Eye. You want to look for the one that gives you increased life recovery rate while affected by vitality. So you can have vitality level 1, you get this, and your regeneration is going to jump insanely high. So this is the only one that you actually need, but I managed to get also for the Purity of Elements. Some physical damage is taken as lightning damage, which is nice. This is defensive, and unaffected by elemental weakness while affected by Purity of Elements. So basically, if I run a map with elemental weakness, it's not going to affect my resistances. By the way, the resistances are even higher if you get all the 5 endurance charges, so you can calculate with that as well. Okay, so what else did I forget? Okay, so another ring. This one should be a rare ring with a lot of life, dexterity, some resistances, and if you can get this craft on top of it, it would be amazing. Non-challenge skills have minus mana cost. The reason for that is your Molten Shell is gonna cost mana, your Leap Slam is gonna cost, this is gonna cost, and your Flame Wall is gonna cost mana. So it would be optimal if you had this craft on top of it. For the amulet, you want to have the Marble Amulet. For the life regeneration, I also got some dexterity. So dexterity is not that important actually. The only reason why you need dexterity is because of Swift Affliction, right? So you have a bunch of them, and for faster attacks. But you could reduce the levels of these to, let's say, level 11 or something. They would still deal quite a bit of damage, but then you wouldn't need so much dexterity on your gear. So don't really worry about the dexterity, just use lower level gems and you're gonna be fine. That's for dexterity. And the amulet, this one has some fire damage, and I get some damage per endurance charge. Since I have 5, it's gonna be 30% increased fire damage, 24% fire damage, some dexterity, and some life and regeneration. That's all there is to it. You can make this pretty insane, this amulet. The Warlord's one can roll +1 to fire gems, fire damage over turn multiplier. It depends on how much currency you have and how much you want to invest. So you could improve this, you can improve the helmet, so on and so forth. The belt, I just got one with a lot of regen, life, and chaos resistance. I even crafted even more regen, so that's really nice. And I crafted some... I added a jewel that gives you mana regen, life, and chaos resistance. I think this is one of the best ones that you can get, honestly. You could get other resistances as well instead, but there you have it. My belt gives me a lot of chaos resistance and life. The boots give movement speed, some regeneration. These could actually be improved. You could go for Warlord boots that can give you % regeneration, or you can go for the Onslaught on Kill, stuff like that. There's a lot of options. You don't need the freeze immunity because you have Purity of Elements. By the way, Purity of Elements is interchangeable with Malevolence. So if you think you can get more resistances on your gear, instead you could go for Malevolence, which is going to give you 20% more damage. And then on the Watcher's Eye, you wouldn't look for Purity of Elements, but for Malevolence, which is, by the way, going to be super expensive. So this is for people that want to use a lot of money. You can use Malevolence instead of Purity of Elements. The gloves I think I explained, but yeah, basically you use an essence of delirium, and then hit it until you roll something good. I would recommend running this on the Shaper Influence gloves, Apothecary. Apothecary gives you damage over time, and if they're Shaper, you can roll concentrated effect, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So I could have a 6-link here as well. So this is something to look after. But I rolled this. This was really good enough for me. It's a 5-link. I love it. So I left it like this. And that's pretty much that. I covered all of the gear. The flasks, on the flasks, you always want to have this. Gain charges when you're hit by an enemy. So 6+ would be ideal. Gain 6 charges or gain 7 charges would be ideal when you're hit by an enemy. That means every time you get hit by anything, you're restoring charges. So you can constantly sustain on every boss battle your flasks permanently. This one still doesn't have it. This one has it, and this one still doesn't have it. But yeah, I'm rolling it. It's kind of hard actually. One of the flasks should have the reduced effect of curses. So this is a really fun one. We're using the Pantheon that reduces the effect of curses by 30%. We're using the this one that reduces the effect of curses by 20%. So by default we're reducing 50%. And if you have a flask that reduces by 50%, it's going to be basically immunity to curses because they remove the increased effect of curses on you on maps, right? So if you use this flask in a map, you're going to be immune to curses because of everything we stacked. This is for movement speed, so we got movement speed. You see how fast I go? It restores when I get hit. This one should also have restores when hit, but by the way, don't worry about enchants. I was just trying something out. You should have no enchants on top of them. They're really bad. So yeah, don't use them. This one has immunity to poison, because why not? It's a ruby flask. It increases our regeneration, movement speed, reduces curse effects, and creates consecrated ground. Consecrated ground is going to increase your regeneration, so we use it. Life regen, boom, quite a bit. So on a boss, this would be really useful. Also increases your damage. And this one is just mostly for phasing and some armor, because why not? Why wouldn't we increase our armor even further? But not only that, it gives us phasing so we can pass through enemies, which is really useful for this build. This one is to remove bleeding. You're not going to be immune to bleeding, so you need something that will remove bleed. That's why I'm using this flask. I'm also using a jewel. So this one was 2 exalted orbs, life, burning damage, some resistances, but the most important part, immunity to corrupting blood. This one you need to get because sometimes you're going to kill a blue pack, you get the corrupting blood, and you don't like the degen, so make sure to use that. But yeah, let's go over the 3 real quick. So I'm using the Juggernaut Ascendancy. The first one you're going to get is this one, Unbreakable. You want to get the regeneration as soon as possible, reduce damage taken. That's basically that. You're going to be most likely running a Tabula Rasa when you're leveling. I recommend Tabula Rasa. Even in maps, like up to tier 5 you can use the Tabula Rasa. So the double armor is not going to be that useful early on, but it's important because of the regen and reduced damage taken. Later on when you get this chest piece, the armor gets doubled from this passive, so that's amazing. Then you go for this one to generate endurance charges when you're hit, which is amazing. Then the third one you want to take Unstoppable, so you cannot be stunned. This is really important in maps. So once you get to maps, you take this one. And then for the last one, you're going to be taking this one because it gives you some elemental damage reduction and cast resistance per endurance charge. We're going to take a couple of endurance charges. One here, and I think one more somewhere. Maybe it's just one. Yeah, one you get from the Ascendancy, right? Early on, you're just going to pick up a lot of life regen, as much life regen as possible, just so you can sustain RF as soon as possible. And yeah, you get a lot of these resistances here, a lot of life, some fire damage, some area of effect. You could choose to path here towards life instead of area of effect if you want, but it's up to you. I went for area of effect because it's already a little bit small. You get the jewel, the endurance charge, mana reservation nodes, really important. Here is vitality, mana reservation, efficiency, if you want to level it up more, like I did. Again, some fire damage with fire exposure is improved. And then we're using a cluster, actually that's using just one node, Master of Fire, which gives us fire exposure constantly around us. So nearby enemies always have fire exposure, so all of the enemies that are close by have their resistances reduced. It's an easy way of doing it, and I found a really decent jewel that gives me the small passives are really nice. So all of the small passives give me chaos resistance, increased damage, and lightning resistance. So every small one that I take gives me insane stats, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. This is really good. I'm even considering going for this one as well. How good it is. Like, look at the power for one node. And you get additional jewel slots, of course, which is going to give you life, fire damage, resistances, whatever you need. Here we go for this, less damage taken over time, a lot of damage over time multiplier, and some fire damage and life. That's basically that. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward build. RF.
I cannot do this yet.
And yeah, that's basically all there is to it. You could use Asenath Gentle Touch gloves, which are really expensive, something like 4 Exalted Orbs. If you want the explosions, then you would drop probably Flame Wall. Maybe place something else inside, like golems or whatever. Or you could still use the Flame Wall, but it's not gonna have the additional 5th link. What the Asenath Gentle Touch gloves do is basically when you curse an enemy, which you are, with elemental weakness constantly with the scatterbots, you're gonna be exploding minions. So that's kind of your explodey option. You want to explode minions when you clear maps, then you want to use the Asenath Gentle Touch gloves. That's an option if you'd like. They also have life on top of them. I don't think they have resistances though. So if you want to explode stuff, make sure to place those. Alternatively, your Infernal Cry occasionally can explode a bunch of packs. And yeah, that's that. If you have any more questions, just feel free to poke me and ask me in the comments or wherever. I'm gonna answer. Bye bye.